Hello and welcome to the home of the Ghost Owl, and here we are with another series. This time it's focused on Warhammer the Old World. So for those that aren't aware, Warhammer the Old World is a return to the original lore and world of Warhammer Fantasy Battle before Age of Sigmar, and with it brings essentially a new game for the tabletop, but is a return to the style of Warhammer Fantasy Battle with rank and file. Now, this has been announced as being in creation right now with Games Workshop. There is currently no release date, but it certainly is expected either by the end of 2023 or the first half of 2024. So in reality, not that far away. Now, in terms of what this series is looking at, it's looking at those models that are currently available to buy that could well be expected to be part of the army books and army lists that will be used in Warhammer the Old World. Now, we do know there are new models coming, and we'll look at that when we come on to each of the factions. We'll be looking at the factions in alphabetical order, starting with those that are currently in the narrative, and then looking at those that are outside of the narrative, though we do know there are at least rules coming for every faction when the game is first released. Now, why am I doing this? Well, for people like me who are old Warhammer Fantasy Battle players that probably still have existing armies, maybe gathering dust somewhere, who haven't been keeping up to date with what's available on the web store, it's a look at what you could still buy to flesh out the armies that you already own. If you're new to Warhammer Fantasy Battle, then it's a look at, if you were going to start an army, what an army might look like, what the models might look like, and give you a chance to maybe dip in early. If you're like me, I'm a very slow painter, so this gives me a chance to buy models in advance of the game being released and have them painted and ready to play when the game does fully release. And as well, not many people are sat there with, £300, £400, £500. We don't know how big the armies are going to be to drop on an army on day one. So this does allow you to then spread the costs over buying the units over many, many months. And sort of you can buy a unit, paint it up, and next month buy a unit, and you're not having to find the money all in one go. Now, I should say everything that is in this series are personal opinions only. I have no inside knowledge. I have no relationship with Games Workshop in that way, other than being a fan of Warhammer Fantasy Battle and the lore of that game. And everything in the series is correct at the time of recording only. And I have based a lot of what I'm going to talk about on the last remaining army book that was published for the factions. Many of those will be 8th edition, but there are a few like Chaos Dwarfs and Bretonnia that didn't have 8th edition army books. Now, before we get into it, other miniatures are available. You can find, obviously, the old classic miniatures that are no longer available to buy from Games Workshop on eBay, for example. You've got other manufacturers that you can use as counts as, such as DS Vault with their sort of Crusaders and Templars and so on. Kings of War. There's also those 3D printer opportunities out there, whether you own a 3D printer and you're looking for the files, or whether you're looking for someone to do it for you. That's an option, but always remember that non-official Games Workshop models are not usually allowed to be used in their stores, at gaming tables, or in the tournaments. Also, when you're looking at the Games Workshop models on their website, check the bases. Some of these will have round bases, some of them will have square. Now, we know that they're going to be square bases, but we also know there's going to be some base size changes, so please keep that in mind when you're buying the models. And again, if a lot of times the bases you don't really care if you're just playing at home or playing in a local club, but if you are playing in tournament, you will need obviously the correct base sizes. But if you're not too fussed about making sure they're fully correct, then you've obviously, consider the fact that when you're playing a rank and file game like Warhammer Fantasy Battle was, and like the old world will be, movement trays will be a really important part. So you can mitigate a lot of the base issues with movement trays. Also, check the material. Some people really don't like fine cast, so there's still quite a lot of the old models that are dotted around that may well be fine cast, so check that out versus plastic. And if you are looking at stuff off eBay or whatever, and it's Forge World, that of course will be resin, so for example the Chaos Dwarves. And overall, given what we know about Warhammer the Old World, the timeline it's going to be set in, I would avoid buying named characters unless there's a nostalgia thing. There will surely be rules, even if Games Workshop doesn't do it. The fan base will provide rules for some of those characters that you might have played in the past. You can consider the timeline and maybe take a gamble on, if you look at some of the longer lived characters, whether they be demons or whatever, even elves, for example, maybe those characters will make an appearance. But with a new game, with a new timeline, I can certainly expect that we might see a few new named characters put in. Though, of course, as always, you can use these named characters as accounts as. So if you had Karl Franz, the Emperor of the Empire, for example, on his Griffin, there's no reason you couldn't use him as a general on Griffin if that option was available. So that is essentially the intro of why we're doing it and some of the considerations that you need to consider while we go through each of these videos. But without further ado, let's go and look at the next faction. Well then, next up on the list of factions that aren't on the inside of the narrative campaign and therefore aren't going to get the full support, just an initial army rules list release at the beginning, is the Lizardmen. Now, the Lizardmen are in a real interesting position. They are known as the Seraphon in Age of Sigmar, and have actually just had a whole recent slew of releases. Some of them are actually can be usable in this army list, and some not. So we're going to have a look through now what we've got. Utilising the last available army book and army list, so from the 8th edition army list that was usable, we've got the Special Lords. Lord Mazdamundi and Tenehuin are not currently available, but there is a brand new kit for Lord Croak, which I have to say is absolutely outstanding. I do own this kit. It is fantastic. And it makes a great Lord Croak kit. And as I've said, I don't expect to see too many named characters that are the same finding their way into the old world, because why wouldn't you make new ones? However, Lord Croak, he's been around for thousands of years. He's absolutely in the timeline. But you could also use him as a generic Slann Mage Priest. Why not? Just a very old one. Very cool looking miniature. Highly recommend, if you're looking at Lizardmen, to pick this kit up. It's a joy to build and paint. Not cheap at £80, but the detail on it is absolutely outstanding. So a really great miniature and very Lord Croak aesthetic to it. You've also got Kroq-Gar. Now, he's now known as a Saurus Old Blood on Carnosaur. You can make different variations of this kit, and one of them is Kroq-Gar. Kroq-Gar actually has the golden claw, and you see that picture below. So that is the Saurus Old Blood on Carnosaur, £55. But if you build it, that's actually the original Kroq-Gar model. In terms of Lords, there is a brand new release of a Slann Mage Priest, which is also very good. That's £52.50. Or you can just make a generic Saurus Old Blood on Carnosaur at £55. So even if Kroq-Gar doesn't get rules, but a Saurus Old Blood does, well, there you go. You can just use the model that you see in the picture there. But you do have the option of picking up a Saurus Old Blood on foot for £12 as well. In terms of special heroes, the only one still available is Chakax. He is known as the Saurus Eternity Warden. He's £18, and he is the left-hand image you see on the screen. So Gorok, Teto Echo, Tic-Tac-Toe, and Oxyotl not currently available from Warhammer website. In terms of heroes, though, you've got a skink priest, known as a skink star priest, £19, or you've got the new version known as a skink starseer, and you can see the image there. This is a brand new one that's come out as well, and that's £35, and has the very similar aesthetic to that Lord Croak feel and the new feel of the Seraphon, but doesn't feel out of keeping with original Lizardmen either. So I honestly feel like a lot of the new Seraphon models work quite well as Lizardmen models and are quite interchangeable, and the aesthetic all does match quite well. The other hero there is the Saurus Scar Veteran on Carnosaur, £55, and that's the same as that Old Blood kit you saw before. It's a joint kit, as I said. Skink Chief, though, not currently available. In terms of core units, Lizardmen not in a bad place. You've got brand new Saurus Warriors, though they are pricey at 10 for £37.50. But if you look at some of the newer plastic infantry kits, that's about where the price point is. They are quite nicely done models, I have to say, very in keeping with Lizardmen and do fit the aesthetic. You can also pick up a Skink Cohort, which is 20 skinks for £27.50, or the Skink Skirmishers, which have essentially javelins, which is also 20 for £27.50, which in terms of number of models per price is actually pretty good value. So, you know, core units, solid core units, and ones absolutely expected to be part of the army book, because Saurus Warriors and Skinks are the main part of a Lizardman army. Next up, special units, again in a pretty good situation. So as we've seen, all bar Chaos Dwarfs, those armies which are on the outside of the ones in the narrative campaign that have said they're not getting new units or updated rules and so on, actually pretty damn good in terms of units that are currently available off Games Workshop's website. So you've got Temple Guard, known as Saurus Guard, that's 15 for £37.50, so actually better value than those Saurus Warriors, and not bad models to boot. Jungle Swarms, Chameleon Skinks, and Cold One Riders, not currently available, but you've got brand new Croxagore models. They look really nice as well, 3 for £37.50. I really do think Games Workshop did a good job with some of the new Seraphon models, which fit straight back into a Lizardman army list. You've got the Pterodon Riders there, which is a dual kit with the Ripidactyl Riders. It's 3 for £37.50, and you can see the Pterodons there in the centre top with the Fire Leech Bowlers. You've got a Stegodon at £42.50, and a Bastillodon, which you see there with the solar engine on his back, but can also be built with the I think it's the Shrine of Sotek or something on as well. So you've got those options, but Bastillodon there, £37.50, which you can see in the bottom centre of the list. All of these are expected to be in the army list, and pretty decent models to boot, and say pretty much fit in with the aesthetic of the new and the old. In terms of rare units, you've got the Ancient Stegodon, £42.50. That's a kind of a shared kit there. You've got the Salamander Hunting Pack. This is a brand new kit known as the Spawn of Kotek. It's £32.50. But actually, you know, it does fit the aesthetic of a Salamander Hunting Pack and can absolutely use it as that. The Razordon Hunting Pack, not currently available, but the Troglodon is known as Skink Oracle on Troglodon. I really do love that kit. It is a joint kit, again, with that Carnosaur, so you can build either or. There you go, that is the Skink Oracle on Troglodon. Again, quite a nice unit, and expected to be in the army list. So Lizardmen, as with the previous videos, with the exception of Chaos Dwarfs, pretty good choice of miniatures that are still available to buy on Games Workshop's website. So if you're looking to get in early, looking to pick things up, you know, certainly these are in a good place to be. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't know, give it a thumbs down and let me know why in the comments down below. And if you want to see more content, then please hit that subscribe button. It's totally free for you to do, and it means a huge amount for me, so thank you for that in advance. You've been watching The Ghost Owl, and I'll see you very soon.